let's get into it then. So, right now, we'll get ourselves, ladies and gents, getting into tonight's episode review of PM 2019. We are now in the episode titled, let's take a look right here, Rival Showdown Satoshi versus Saito, aka Ash versus B. Now, the reason why I was struggling there was because I recall correctly, I think that episode that's coming after this is going to be just simply called Dynamax versus, or Gigantamax versus Mega Evolution, if I'm correct. But point of the matter is that don't really matter anyway. But the point of the matter is we are now going to be talking about the episode in hand. The episode that has been anticipated by many, I think, with regards to the fact that we're finally going to see a decisive conclusion towards the battle between Ash and B and their rivalry. And yeah, let's get right into it. So let me go and bring in some little bits, and I don't know, you guys can jump into this conversation if you like to, of course, with certain things I'm about to mention. But before we get into that, actually, let me go and read the summary for this real quick for those who would like to hear. Satoshi is going to battle Saito, a rival he's already had 2 fierce matches with before in the Pokemon World Championships. When he would go to the lateral stadium where the match is going to be held, they suddenly ran into Saito there. She and Satoshi are both really enthused about the next day's battle and introduced each other to their Pokemon. It's now time for a hyperclass battle between Satoshi, equipped with a Mega Glove, and Saito, equipped with a Dynamax Band, to begin. So let me bring out one thing that really caught my attention the most. It isn't necessarily the actual fight in hand, but what happens before the fight. I really like that they elaborated on something that a lot of people were wondering if Ash was ever going to pull off in one of the later episodes of PM 2019, and it doesn't seem like it's going to happen. Apparently, you can only bring one equipment with you, aka you can only bring either a Mega Evolution item, a Dynamax band, or just the Z-Ring.
A Z-Ring.
You can't bring all 3 at once.
There's a quote that made me laugh a little bit. So Ash has the Keystone this time around.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, Ash is using the Keystone instead of instead of his Z-Ring." And I go, "Smart move, Ash. Smart move." But I just like that the announcer said it, so it gave me the opening to make the joke.
Alright, so yeah, that was one thing that really caught my attention. I'm very glad that they specified on that, only just because it's like, a lot of us are going to continue to think, oh, maybe one of these actual days he'll actually use Mega, Gigantamax, and Z moves all at once, which will probably destroy his body.
Well,
Mega Z-Max.
Yeah.
All I have to say on that regard is, I will not be surprised if when he eventually battles Leon calls the referee, "Hey, take that rule out, I want to battle at his best, like, pull all 3, pull all 3, I want to, like, that can happen, but they are going with game logic, like, only one gimmick, which means that the next battle is for Gigantamax Gengar, maybe.
No, it makes sense, because if you recall the artwork promotion we got, they showed off Z-Move Pikachu, they are now showing off Mega Evolution Lucario. The only one we haven't seen yet was Gigantamax Gengar. And according to that tease that we got a while back...
I'm mad, because Gengar winning only with the aid of the power-up feels cheap. I don't like how he needs the power-up to get wins. I'm sorry.
Don't worry, we'll get to that when we get actual confirmation.
In January, we'll talk.
Yeah, exactly. So, back to the episode at hand then. Let me go and bring out some pros I liked about this episode. First of all, I want to give credit where credit is due. I like the beginning part of this episode. And I'm going to go and elaborate just a little bit in both the positives and the negatives on this. So, the positives about it is, one of my favorite things that this series should have done more of, but I'm glad we're at least seeing something rather than nothing. Still kind of late on it, but regardless, I liked seeing gym leaders from other generations actually have interactions with this. Now, we've had it before in the past, but very slightly, like very minuscule. So to see something like this in a much more broader approach with B and Karina and their dynamic that they had with each other, I thought that was quite wholesome. I actually liked that interaction that those two had with each other. And also, it's just nice to see more of Karina in the series, in a better light, basically. So I was very happy with that approach. So Karina and B having a conversation, them saying that, oh, like I'm learning things from her and she's learning things from me with different aspects of how we train our Pokemon or how we connect to Pokemon and just
There's something really
fighting
fast there when they say that.
Hmm?
So Karina goes, I'm learning a lot about how she trains her Pokemon. She's very serious but very kind when it comes to training her Pokemon. I'm learning a lot from her. And B goes, I'm learning a lot too. That Kalos chocolates are good. Like the fuck?
Yeah, because she has a sweet tooth the size of Alabama.
Yeah, they're not looking at the same eye to eye
Like,
approach,
the
but it's
levels
just
of
funny.
The levels of uselessness that knowledge has.
Hey, listen, yeah, B don't give no shit. She just wants that goddamn chocolate.
Well, she also mentioned that it's hard. It's when you're in the battle, to like in the battle. You can't. Well, the line was something along the lines of, to like in the battle you can't have sympathy.
Yeah.
So I could understand that. That's why she was like very focused like that, and still.
That's why she kind of learned from Karina, even though the chocolate bit was the first thing that came out of her.
Which is kind of funny because the Yamai thing now makes sense.
But looking at her source material, X and Y, I didn't see that Karina ever had a level of like sympathy in battles. In fact, she got on Ash for not fighting seriously.
No, B described that. B described herself, not her.
I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it was her talking about herself.
yeah, in that moment, that was her, and then she brought up Karina's.
When she had Graplock almost break Riolu's bones.
I swear to God, his ribs were gonna break in that episode.
Sympathy.
Now, well, to be fair, that's a battle. Battles, regardless, we'll always see happen.
Yeah,
shit like this.
Don't forget that Karina's whole gimmick. It's like besides being a martial artist, it's more like sports, rollerblades. So she's more energetic. B, martial arts, but she's the karate prodigy, so she's more strict in battle
stoic
mentality
and all that.
That discipline.
Yeah, which is great for her character that they keep it that way, and also most importantly, I'm loving that B never shakes his hand during this scene back to back. Holy shit! I know they shake hands later, but it's just funny when you just see it out of context. It doesn't look like he ever shook the hands. But point of the matter is, though, getting back into it, another thing I liked about it, we got to see the Pokemon interactions. Very, very happy about that. Really happy to see all of Ash's team in hand. Really happy to see B's entire team in hand. And just seeing the dynamics that they shared, the Lucario's actually doing the bro fist I was asking for. Not necessarily the bro fist, but like a nice little gesture that they had with each other while they were kind of going at it with the Pokemon. I really love that approach. So a lot of the things that I saw within this episode, at least at the start, I really, really enjoyed. It felt nice. It felt well paced and all. And then I thought about it, and I'm going to be real with you. I loved it. And I just hate it because of the fact that it just straight up screamed, we could have had this 6v6 because I saw B's entire team there. I saw Satoshi's entire team there. And I was like, oh my God, they're all getting themselves introduced. They're all getting buddy with each other. And then I realized, okay, what's the fight gonna be like? 3v3? Oh shit! And I was like, I really was hoping for a 6v6.
Which means for Link's Hypnotop and fucking
Pangoro.
Pangoro are just there for show.
Yeah, but just like how it was for Mr. Fish, for Gengar. And
I wouldn't have even minded if she had used a whole different setup at this point. That way Ash can't try to predict her. That would have been cool.
Yeah.
You can swap out Halucha, for Christ's sakes.
Honestly, I wanted for her to use Pangoro because it makes her always have a different lead. It was Halucha, it was Hypnotop, now it's Pangoro. Which Pangoro kind of has a rivalry with her Lucario because it's like they were sparring. And Pangoro, it's, a Kalos fighting type.
I would have liked to see Phalanx just because, Galar representation.
Yeah.
So that wasn't necessarily something that harms the episode, but because of how they showed it, for me personally, and let that be clear, for me personally, you can state your opinion when that gets to that. But for me, in my approach, I saw it, I was a little displeased by that because it's like, we had this opportunity to see more of this in action, especially when you think about how little B has made of an appearance in the show so far. So having a 6v6 fight, aka having more episodes with her as well, would also be good too, because it'll continue to flesh her out during the battle in hand. You know what I mean? We get to see more of her in action. We get to see more of her Pokemon and her interactions with all of her various type of mons as well, meaning more different styles of her battling skills.
Shit. I just realized if we had a Phalanx versus Surf Edge fight, it would have been like the Spartan Shield versus the Joust. Man, fuck you, Journey.
Yeah.
My bro. Okay, well,
Also, but you know what hurts the most? Like in the games, she has a Phalanx, but when we were introduced to her character, we saw all of her Pokemon. Like back in the day, there were no Phalanx, and well, Go got one, so we weren't expecting for her to have. Because Ash has Surf Edge that she has in the games. That Phalanx being there is just an eyesore.
It was there to look cute for the cute little popping bits.
It means the only Phalanx battle scene we have is the one where Go fucking
with the fucking ice cube.
Yeah, that dumbass
that penguin. Yeah, weird. Anyway, going back to the episode now. So overall, beginning part, I liked it. Sure, it was misleading. Well, it wasn't misleading. I think it was more so it brought us something that could have happened but didn't happen. Overall, that's just something we'll have to accept with. Now, getting to the actual battle at hand now through the 3v3, I'm very happy that the mechanic that we saw from the Faulkner fight is still being carried over here. So, aka the switching and swapping that we've always been seeing before. At least that's what I thought until I realized Lucario, because B was doing all of the switching at first. Ash was doing it too at one point before Lucario came out with Pikachu. And I was like, okay, so I'm starting to see the swap in action. Ash is knowing what he needs to do. Ash is understanding that, okay, we need to start bringing out the other mons just so that way we can, we can try to get some sort of approach. So he only does it once, whereas B is looking to do it multiple times throughout the episode, and of course in the next one that we are going to get ourselves into. And that's my big issue. I am not a big fan at the fact that Lucario, as the chat is saying, the damage sponge in this episode.
I'm glad y'all saying it for me, because my biggest criticism is that Lucario is getting the fucking tar kicked out of him in that
every
episode.
Single mon, let that be noted, by every single mon, he is getting his ass beat by every single one of them.
Getting the fucking stuffing kicked out of him. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, he had a Dragon Ball moment with Hawlucha. He got grap locked by the grap lock, and then also got grap locked again by the Machamp before getting his ass punched in many different approaches.
He got bullet punch, cross chop. He got fucking kicked. He got damn it.
It doesn't help much because, like, in the last episode, like, not the last episode, but the last PWC battle, he also battled all three in a row. So I remember making this tweet like, "Yo, this Lucario, it's like Swallow. He refuses to faint."
Shit, he got hit so. I thought Randy Orton was gonna hit him with a fucking chair at some point. Holy!
RKO. No, you got it wrong. RKO.
My point being is
that just there are two moments of that fight, like Hawlucha having wing attack instead of dual wing beat.
He had fucking Godbird. Let's go.
Godbird.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's also, but also, I'm gonna bring up one thing. It's one of the weakest animations for Godbird, though. And that will come up in my section. So.
No, you're right, TSS. That fucking sucked.
Yeah, it looked like just a wing attack plus, basically.
Yeah,
but okay, anyway, getting back into my review real quick. Overall, I was a big fan of the swapping mechanics. Wasn't a big fan of how it was sort of only used once on Ash's side, where B is actually taking the approach. And then, of course, you find out that the reason why this was the case is because Ash was kind of hesitant, in a way, when he started saying, like, he wanted to try to Mega Evolve his Lucario. And then Lucario, of course, asked to not do so. It's not the time to do it. And then, of course, Ash was, like, reluctant about it at first. And it was like, okay, never mind. I'm overstepping it real quick. I probably shouldn't do this. I need to be in sync with my Pokemon in order for us to do this Mega Evolution. Now is not the time. I thought, I'm going to be real with you. I thought when that happened, when Ash understood what Lucario was feeling, I thought that was going to be the instant that Hawlucha was going to get called back. to give him a little bit of breathing room. And then Ash was going to bring out Sirfetch'd, which we know is coming in the next episode thanks to the preview. And I thought the episode was going to end at that note. But then we discovered that the way the episode ends is that Lucario is still in the field to fight against the Machamp. So next week, we're going to be seeing Hawlucha still probably getting some damage sponge hits in him as we approach into the Mega Evolution versus Gigantamax battle, when instead it should have focused on switching it out from Grapplock to Sirfetch'd, so that way those two could have been the to be continued fight, and then we would have known that Lucario and Machamp will be the big finale at that episode, you know. But because of the way it was structured, it just more so is like, okay, we're going to be seeing more of these two fight before their actual big fight happens later down the road. Now, that works sometimes. I mean, like, I was a big fan of that when it was done via the Torracat versus Incineroar fight. That's a perfect example when those two mons tend to duke it out with each other throughout the 4-parter. But because it was a 4-parter, or at least a 3-parter for Torracat's story, there was more room for it to happen. Whereas this battle is more of 1.5 episode of battling, given that the first part of this episode was mainly focused on the dynamics of just the characters interacting with each other and whatnot before the eventual battle. That's not mean to criticize the first part. It's just letting you know why I'm, bringing this up. There was more time to flesh out those two battling each other, but when you only have an episode left for this fight, and you're going to continue it off between these two, knowing that we still need to see the other battle go down between Sirfetch'd, Pikachu, Grapplock, and Hawlucha, it kind of feels like it's overstaying its welcome, basically. It should have been the grand finale at this point. You know, we didn't need to see more of these two until the end. So that's my take on it. Did I enjoy the episode, though? That's the most important part. Did I enjoy the episode? I'm going to be real with you. Despite my criticisms on it, I still had fun with this episode. I know the criticisms I stated, but regardless, I really enjoyed what I saw because there were so many good things from this episode that really carry it for me. Like I told you, the beginning half of this episode was really wholesome despite it looking like a tease for a 6v6 that'll never happen, or say the actual battle at hand. At first I didn't know about the swapping mechanic that Ash was only going to do it once, but in the moment I really liked seeing Hawlucha and Lucario do the DBS kind of like kicking animation going in between the two. Like, that was actually really cool. And even Pikachu having a little bit of moments as well with Grapplock. And then once that moment came, after those fights, that's when I began to notice it go a little downhill from there. But everything leading up to that moment, though, in my eyes, has actually been really good. So I've really had a fun time with this episode. I'm curious to see how the next episode is going to wrap this whole thing up, because it's still going to continue on from the fight. So we got a good big fight going on between these three. So between these two, I mean. So I'm very curious about that. But for now, as it stands on its own, when I view this episode for what it is, I still would give it an 8. I still would, in all honesty, give it just an 8. It's still a really good episode. There's a lot of things I enjoyed from it that I don't think it deserves to get anything less from an 8, at least from my end, personally. I will admit, though, I need to see how next week's episode handles itself, because that way I can give an overall average score for those 2 and 1. But for where it stands right now, in my eyes, I really had a fun time. And that's what really mattered for me the most. So that's just my take on it overall. I shared my criticisms, I shared my pros and all that. That's just my score at this current moment. So I'll pass it now on to the next person. So who would like to go next here in the call?
Go ahead, Cora.
All right, Kuro, buddy.
No. I'm going last. I'm going last. Tyrone, you can speak.
Okay, so Kuro's going to save his thoughts for last then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for me, so let's talk about the obvious thing. The Karina B. Sutton best friendship besties thing. Let's talk about it. I liked the joke idea is good. The joke setup is good. You want to know who fucks it up? Go fucks it up. Go talks too damn much. I would have loved if that entire scene had just been Karina looks mad at B, runs to B, we cue the opening, then she does the best friend joke. We don't need giving us all this context, because sometimes shit without context is funnier. So basically, when it comes to comedy, like, sometimes actions can speak louder than words. And if Go didn't say, didn't Karina lose to B one time? And isn't she probably upset about that? Oh, I wonder what she's gonna do. Karina, no, don't. We're best friends. Ugh. If it had literally just been her looking mad at B, running up, and Ash and Go are like a little startled, and then she switches up immediately, that would have transferred way better. Way better. Because we don't need that whole build-up. It's not necessary. Like, we don't need them chiming in. It ruins the atmosphere of the joke.
Oh, like, what's that statement that I always say? You fail at a joke when you have to explain
the joke. Exactly. Yes.
Because Journeys is episodic, they have to, recap previous episodes to explain this.
Oh, Pantomime, let me tackle that, because KG hit me with that one time, too. The comedy is subjective, but it's still an art. And when you're doing an art, that's like saying that a 5-year-old who drew a scribble is better than an artist who spent years in college learning art. That completely diminishes. Or that's like saying someone who cooks food halfway to where it's poisonous is better than someone who's a chef that's been a chef for 30 years. Art is subjective, but it's still an art, which means that if you study it and you use its techniques, then you're better at it. If you're better at it, then it's going to show. It's the difference between art that's worth millions of dollars and a child's painting on the refrigerator wall.
Donnie with the nice burn, thank you.
Learning art in college, good job. My point, even if you scratch out college, you can still take on the people who didn't go to college who are good at art. And you got Da Vinci, you got Raphael, you got your fucking Picassos,
Michelangelo.
You got you got your good artists, and they did art and practice it. That would be like saying if I picked up a video game for like one day and was better than someone who's been practicing for basically their entire life. The odds of it happening are very small. So the point being is that, again, I stand by what I said. Comedy is still an art, and art has techniques that make it better. And here, they had bad technique. But moving on to the actual episode, the Pokemon hanging out with each other is good. I'm not attached enough to Ash's Pokemon or Bees at this point to really give a crap about what they really do, but it is nice to see that they hang out. Again, KG brought up a good point. I kind of wish they did this with other Pokemon. I wish they did this with Volkner's fight or something like that, but they don't. So whatever.
Or Iris.
The fight itself, because I think that's the only real important thing that comes after. To me, it's a mess. This whole battle's a mess. You guys already pointed out the big thing, and I'll come back to it. But, like, switching out a Pokemon is great. I like that because in real VGCs, you switch out a lot. You constantly switch out in Pokemon. I think Volkner did it the best, personally, in this series. Volkner did the switching out the best. Because he switched out the shit that... He did some pro strat switch. He switched to a ghost Pokemon knowing that it would phase through an attack. He switched out to Electivire knowing that it would use Motor Drive to absorb an attack. Like he was doing some real deal switching. But here, like, it's mostly who's Lucario gonna get his ass to beat to next. That's literally what the whole fight was. The whole fight was who's gonna beat the shit out of Lucario now. Ash uses Pikachu for Graplock, but I think the show is very confused on which Pokemon want to take which victories in the middle of the fight. Because it's very clear that Lucario and Graplock have a rivalry. That's been established since it was a Riolu. So they have to fight. But the show remembers that Lucario's got to fight Graplock and Machamp, and Ash still has 2 other Pokemon. So I feel as though Sirfetch'd is going to get the shortest end of this stick, pun entirely intended. Just simply because he's not important enough. Sirfetch'd only had 1 fight, and I think it was against what? Was it against Hawlucha the first time?
It was Hawlucha.
Do they have a rivalry, or are they just sort of exist?
It's very forced. It's very forced.
It's forced.
They
okay,
were in the
I
same
believe it.
scene together when the Poffin thing was in.
I just want to make this clear for the audience. Just because two Pokemon battle once, that doesn't
They
mean
don't have
that
a rivalry,
Yeah,
It
like
just
people
means
say,
they battle.
but it's the Fighting Birds. Yeah, but I would like to see Pangoro or even Falinks.
Yeah, but the community made that rivalry, not the show.
Yeah.
So,
Pretty much.
So
Right.
unfortunately Sirfetch'd is gonna get tanked. Pikachu may end up beating Graplock, but I see it losing to Graplock and maybe causing paralysis so that Lucario can get
It
the
can't.
win.
It has limber ability. It can't.
Oh fuck me! I don't know what Pikachu's doing today then.
Halucha
Maybe-
probably. Like what I think is gonna happen, Halucha's gonna beat Sirfetch, Pikachu's gonna beat Halucha, probably do something to Graplock. I don't know, probably injure one of its tentacles,
And then-
like
and
how
then
it did to
2
Karina's Lucario.
And then 2 HP Lucario is gonna Mega Evolve and win it.
No, it's gonna beat it and then Mega Evolve in the Machamp fight.
Yeah. And then we get to the Lucario thing. So he's getting the stuffing beaten out of him the entire fight, and Ash debates on whether or not he can use Mega Evolution. He gets hesitant and doesn't do it because Lucario. Okay, so the real reason for this obviously is so behind the curtain, but we can't do this yet because it's not the second part to this 2-parter, and also we can't have the Pokemon use their ace moves right now, because if they do, there's still 2 Pokemon left, which would make this extremely underwhelming afterwards. So they can't bust out their trump cards yet, because it's not time to bust out their trump cards yet. But narratively, that sounds boring, so we gotta find some other way. So it's Lucario's sheer will to not use it. And Ash is like, I lost my temper or whatever. And I'm like, what? No, you didn't. You just got worried whether or not you should use Mega Evolution.
Bad translation. That's why you don't trust it.
And I'm like, and even still, Ash is going, like, he got confused on whether or not he should do it. First of all, why is Ash being this weird about it in this battle? He had no problem doing other techniques similar to this in the middle of fights. Case in point, another transformation, Ash Greninja, the Bond phenomenon, which was essentially the same goddamn thing. They had no problem using that in the middle of a fight. Here, the only issue is that Lucario doesn't want to bust out his trump card too early because Machamp hasn't bust out his trump card this early because there's still 2 Pokemon left because the show doesn't decide what order these Pokemon need to get knocked out in first. So it's switching around. Volkner's switching felt like it was strategic. This just feels like they're switching so that we can see all the Pokemon on screen, I guess? I don't know. Like it feels so out of place. There's no real strategy behind this one. Even back when you rewind to the Biskies fight in episode 10? The point of that switch out was like Ash was going, okay, Pikachu can't handle Raichu right now in a one-on-one. But Gengar's moves are chaotic enough to screw Pikachu over. To screw Raichu over. So that worked. Here, we're getting switch outs because, no, fuck it. I want this Pokemon to fight him. And then Karina tries to play savior here by saying, oh, they're feeling each other out. And I'm just like, nah, Lucario's just getting the shit kicked out of him by every Pokemon on the roster right now. And then afterwards, and this is the worst part, Leon explains all of it. And I'm like, no. Shut the fuck up.
It felt like when Oak told Go that, why Gary was acting the way he was. Like,
I'm like, shut the fuck up.
At this point, wink at the screen. Why don't you?
You don't need to tell us. Lucario just wanted to fight Machamp on even ground. That's all that was happening. Don't say, oh, their bond allowed them to understand. Shut the fuck up. We don't need you. We didn't need it. We didn't need it. It was just literally just vomiting of the mouth. He's here to just basically, and I hate when they keep bringing up Ash and Lucario's bond. I hate it. Not because there's too little of it or too much of it. It's because they keep bringing it up. It's almost like they gotta justify it. It's almost like they gotta say, yeah, Ash and Lucario definitely have a bond. Please believe us, because we won't stop talking about it. If you have to tell me they have a bond this many times, I start to get a little weary of if they have it or not. Like, it just feels like the show is continuously telling me they have one. Actions speak louder than words here, and they're fucking up by talking too much. Like, you gotta sometimes shut the fuck up and just let the animation speak for itself. All Lucario literally had to do was headbutt Machamp, and Ash goes, huh. And then Lucario looks back, does a nod, and Ash does a nod back and goes, I got it. That's it. All you had to do.
Make the audience wonder. Yeah.
It's less dialogue to write, too. But no, Leon's got to come in and basically play save-a-hole for the damn episode. And I'm like, why are you telling us this? We don't need it. We don't need it. The best things in storytelling is when the story is so good that it doesn't need to explain itself. I'll give you a prime example. You guys have played Smash Brothers Brawl Subspace Emissary, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
The entire story. Who talks in that?
No one, really?
Do you understand the story?
Yes.
Yeah.
Case in point. Whole story told. No dialogue. Now, does that mean omit the dialogue completely? Absolutely not. But here, in a battle, we didn't really need it. We didn't. So it just bugs me that it happened. And then, like, when all of it's over, it's just Lucario about to go get his ass whooped a little bit more. And one thing that always threw me off was, Ash, you know, and this is just the willingness to not Mega Evolve. Ash, you know that you can Mega Evolve Lucario, return him, and when he comes back out, he'll still be Mega Evolved, right? You know that, right? Like, I get it. They want them to both transform at the same time for dramatic anime, ooh, look at this moments. But, I mean, just have Mega Lucario just come out at this point. Because now you've fumbled the ball so much, every action you've made up to this point might as well be the right one. You've screwed up this much. So, this battle bugs me, but obviously the battle's not over. It just feels like a mess. It feels like so many switch outs and switch ins were happening, and it was all in an effort to show how strong Lucario is. But I feel like the show's way of making Lucario strong in this series is Lucario gets the shit beat out of him until he decides he doesn't want to get the shit beat out of him anymore. And that isn't good. Yes, I know that Ash has Pokemon that literally do that thing where they get their asses whooped, and Ash is like, oh no, my Pokemon got their ass whooped. And they get up one last time and they're like, oh, they're still getting up. They must want to really win for Ash. And Pikachu does that thing where he nods his head and Ash is like, yeah, let's keep going, Pikachu. Like, I know they have that moment, but here, it becomes less and less believable every time a champ punches fucking Lucario. So yeah, 6 out of 10.
Alrighty then. So, since Kuro said he'll still want to go last, TSS, this is for you, buddy. What do you think of this week's episode of PM 2019?
So first of all, I want to go this in order. So first of all, the first half where we have the scene. Well, first of all, that whole Bee and Karina scene was done, in my opinion, perfectly. It was nice. They actually had closure, because a lot of things, people say, oh, but they're going to still do it. Well, this is one of the closure things. The whole Amai thing is now explained, and we finally have closure for that. It's nice to see all of Bee's Pokemon, but I would imagine that there's probably going to be some exhibition shit that's going to be going on, because otherwise they wouldn't have shown all of them. I'm expecting that in the future. Also, in addition to that, I like how apologetic Karina was, saying that, oh, they sold out of the thing that she wanted, but she forgave him. She forgave her. I did like that. The whole wholesomeness between Bee and Karina was great. Also, the Pokemon scenes where they're eating all the poffins and things like that. But then, freaking Bee has to be a glutton and eats all the fucking chocolate. but that's that's her character, right? At least, hey, character development. Yeah, that's one of the things that they were talking about in Posh Magazine in that interview.
Development is more of a trait, but
But developing it in the context of the show, like showing it in the show, because they specifically said that in the Posh Magazine interview several months back. So nice to see that they're actually not going against their words. Okay, so going into the fight itself. So first of all, credit to Yuji Ueda for sounding less like less of Yuji Ueda than he usually does, especially in the more tense moments. Because of course Yuji Ueda, the problem with all of his roles is that even if he's a secondary character, it's like gift wrapping a hammer. So I give him credit where credit is due for sounding like that. Of course, great vocal performance also by Mr. Maxwell Powers. You know, like all of this stuff too. The whole thing about only using the Z move, the Dynamax, or the Mega Evolution is a nice touch, considering that they can actually do that now because they've introduced it in the anime. So great. So all right, so let's get down to business. So the whole thing about Lucario staying out there, if you recall, and this once again goes to the previous episode, but also the sponsor card at the end of last week's episode saying, like I said, Satoshi no card Lucario Mega no, which is the whole thing. That's why I said last week. It kind of and putting Super Satoshi 64 on trial here with the whole Lucario is going to be the key to getting up in the tournament, the Pokemon World Championships. So that's one of the other reasons. Okay, looking at it logically for a moment. Let's look at it logically. The reason why they didn't do many attack moves in this one, and that's why you freaking have Lucario spamming Force Palm all the damn time, was because the B animation team did all the animations, and they have to save all of the good animations for the following week. So that's why we probably didn't see Surfetched, or we didn't see any of the moves that look good. I mean, like I said, Sky Attack or God Bird looked much better in other episodes because of the lack of the lack of key animation frames. So it's not just a budget thing; it's more like animator thing. They wanted to save this stuff for the following episode. So in that case, I completely understand why they did it. Let's see. So in addition to that, I don't think I think Leon arriving late on the whole thing was fine. Explaining this stuff is fine because, well, the people at home are not in the freaking studio. They're not in the stadium. So in that case, it works on both ways. It works both ways in that case. So let's get down to it. So the Graplock and Pikachu thing, that was fine. The switch out only occurs once on Satoshi's end because, like I said, he's putting too much trust in Lucario, and that's probably the reason why he's getting the shit beat out of him. And that's one of the reasons he's trying to bank too much on Lucario, and that's why he wanted to kind of, get the Mega Evolution early. But having Lucario rejected is a nice character moment in that case. Now, what I did like, however, though, was the slow remix. I think it's the Chairman Rose slow remix in the second batch, along with the other piece of music when Machamp comes out. That was the other new piece of music that was in this episode. I really enjoyed that. But overall, though, I really liked this episode. It really was enjoyable for me. Like I said, the B and the Korean interaction was tops for me. Great development, and the fight it brings it down just a few tenths of a point because I know that they could do better, but they're saving it for the next episode. So with that being said, I can't wait for the next episode, and this is really feeling like it's getting back to the old. Like it feels kind of like in almost the same vein as the XY mini arc, but not exactly. But it's in that same vein because we had episodes with the same characters in it. and showing actual progression in consecutive episodes. So, with that being said, really enjoyed it. Can't wait till next week. 9.2.
Alrighty then. And now, lastly, we will send this off to Kuro. Kuro, take it away, buddy. What'd you think about
Yes.
this week's episode of PM 2019?
Okay, so first and foremost, I enjoyed the episode. I think that it was very funny, but it doesn't mean that the episode doesn't have its own flaws. But I want to talk about the positives first. So the whole Corina and B moment, that was very sweet. Those Laver fairy cookies with all of those details and I find that was like the highlight of the episode for me, and it's not even the episode focus, so you can already tell. We have that picnic and all of the Pokemon, that the tease of oh, it could have been a 6v6, oh, but it's a 3v3. And nah, don't do this to me. Because at this point, you know that if Dragonite battle, like you just use flying attacks and like whoosh. Sorry, B. The whole rivalry, like they arrive there, and B is like, oh, do you want to train before the battle tomorrow? And Ash is like, nah, thanks, I'm good. I'm like, excuse me, what? Like, oh, but their rivalry is so forced, and Ash. This isn't Ash. It felt very out of character in this episode, like wanting to, rush the Mega Evolution, and Lucario saying no, and it feels like Lucario was the one training Ash. It reminded me of Maylene's Lucario, like they were not, but then Leon had to explain everything, like, I get it, I'm not, the best fan of, having to explain, but I get it why we have, that pseudo close combat with Lucario and Hawlucha, and as it was stated before, for Surfetch, he had that battle with Rinto, and most likely it's like just that. He was trying to act cool with Hawlucha, but Pikachu, because Lucario has Graplock and Machamp, so Pikachu defeating Hawlucha, if it happens, it's not that much a big feat for Pikachu, and who will he lose to? I'm kind of worried on that regard. So Go and Corina on the audience. Yeah, that was to be expected. I'm kind of remembering. Oh yeah, last time Go was here, he broke a wall. I don't like how Cinderace, Centellion, and Minchao are not in the picnic scene. It feels like just a monkey, just Grookey. And Grookey looks at Phalanx and like, yeah, you have one of those at home. But the show doesn't care. When Ash was trying to Mega Evolve Lucario and it wasn't working, because we have, the Lucario Bro Fist at that moment, and I'm like, yeah, they're going with the Sun and Moon logic. The Keystone shows up, like, spontaneously, and my thought was, oh, did Ash forgot to give Lucario his stone? I was legit thinking that, like, did Ash forgot to give Lucario the item? But it wasn't that.
So that raises a good question. Where is Lucario's Mega Stone?
Most likely beneath the fur or some shit.
Oh, that's lame.
Yeah.
Lame.
Yeah.
Lame.
When I was watching the preview, like Machamp, beating the shit out of Lucario, I was expecting for that move to be knockoff, because when Ash battled Farfetch, when he captured Farfetch last year, Riolu used 2 moves in a row, and one of them was, double team. And my hope for that was maybe he has Prankster, non-damaging moves have priority, so when he becomes a Lucario, he gets justified, and we saw Surfetch using Night Slash on Gallade, so maybe foreshadowing what Lucario was going to have. Maybe he has justified, but he never got hit by a dark move, so we don't know. I was expecting, again, the anti-Poke what if, that Machamp was going to hit Lucario with Knockoff, but Knockoff can't, take away the Mega Stones. That's one of the items that Knockoff cannot take from. And Lucario gets justified, and he Mega Evolves with Adaptability, and that kind of, makes the power-up more sense in terms of, raising the stats and the stab twice, but they're not going with it. It was Bullet Punch. How the hell does Machamp has a steel move, but Lucario doesn't? And then Holucha. Like, why the wing attack? Like, B, you are a gym leader of Galar. All of your Graplocks moves are the moves that they are in the game. You are an Elite 4 level trainer and you have wing attack. It's like, it could have been dual wing beat.
Sky
like,
attack.
wing attack, yeah. It could have been dual wing beat because we saw Rising Voltage and Skill Shot in this series. So they could have used the Isle of Armor move since they're not using the Isle of Armor at all. The Sky attack. The Sky. I do believe that Ash's Noctowl had a better Sky attack animation. Now I understand why. Like, but you know, Lucario battling all three in a row like he did with Voltner, like, oh, he's a damage sponge, he's like swell, and I'm like, yeah, but you know, the writing in AG was, you know, different. This Lucario, like, you know, I don't know how to feel about it, and I cannot, you know, just judge this because it's the middle episode, right? We had one prior and one that's going to be this Friday. Like, I gave it an 8. Like last week, I gave it an 8, but I give it an 8 for, you know, very different reasons. I enjoyed the episode, but there's, like, you know, nothing much that they can, you know, do. Like, okay, so we have B, we have Ash, like, oh, we explain, you know, the rules, like, in terms of, you know, the power-ups. I just don't know, like, and then there's, you know, the rivalry, like the Ash and B rivalry. So, okay, we got the Telebikun scan. Lucario is going to pull off, you know, an attack on Titan on Machamp, which was to be expected, right? My question is, what will be of B and of Ash's Lucario after this? You know? Like, will he, like, Genki Dama and Aura Sphere at Arceus in the Winter Special? And that's it, call it a day? Like, I will say this, like, you know, that entire episode, the last week, like, oh, the Gherkin and a lot of Kazem, I understand that they didn't want it to repeat Corina's arc, but doing in just one episode, you know, it cheapens out. But I understand their point of view, but I don't have to agree with it. To me, Farfetch learning Detect with Wigstrom felt more earned than Ash getting Mega Evolution. Because Ash gets Lucario, okay, sure. Will it stop here? Will he get more? We'll think about it later. And the later never comes. And the later never comes.
Side thing I want to point out, because damn it, Koro, you're the one that pointed it out. Now that you pointed it out, I can't unsee it. One of the fun things about Mega Evolution, at least in the primary series it was with X and Y, was that you got to see the creative places that the Keystones and the Mega Stones were placed on the trainers and Pokemon. Lucario don't get none of that. Like, I was expecting like a cool little, like, you could have had like a little headband, or could have had like a little neck thingy.
When I watched you know, the scans for, you know, the Sableye, I tried to zoom, and it felt like, you know, Lucario was wearing a French cravat, which is funny because, you know, that's what Lucario wears in Café Remix, and it's a French cravat. Like, it's a Calosian, you know, it's Calosian wear.
Yes. Which fits because that's where they got the stone.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like a fancy Lucario, like, I'm going to kick your ass and look cool while doing it, or some shit like that. Which, you know,
you know damn well you were thinking way too. Harder than the writers.
I always do this. I'm sorry. I'm just, you know.
I would have just liked him to have a little scarf with the goddamn thing on it.
Yeah. So, and when Lucario got, you know, the stone was polished. It wasn't like, you know, a raw ore, like when Corina had to, you know, legit Battle Blaziken for it. Like, it felt like the stone was already, you know, placed there. Like, it was conveniently placed there in that pillar of steel. Like, nah. And then, you know, Ash got the gloves. Like, they already know. Oh, we have the gloves. Oh, how do you know my hand size? Like, convenience. I don't know. Like, this entire mini arc. Well, no, it's the Mega Lucario trilogy, quote unquote. The screenplay is Otsuhiro Tomiyaka, so he's there since the very beginning, since OS. The first episode he screenplayed was the Caterpie episode, OS 3. And he wrote the entire of Ash vs. Paul in the Sinnoh League. So, it feels like the higher-ups are trying to, and the guy did, Generations and Origins. So, in terms of writing, we have a good team, but they are very limited to what they can do because, it's just for this episode. And then we have Go, recapping all of this because, we're right, this is episodic. So, okay, guys, we're going to recap stuff that you didn't saw because of this show is formulaic, so it ruins the joke. So I don't know how to feel about it. Like I enjoyed it. Like I enjoyed the episode. I enjoy Journeys, but every time I'm watching it, like.
You enjoy
I
it?
cannot stop nitpicking. I'm sorry. Like I care too
I mean,
much.
you don't enjoy it.
Like I care too much for this show.
I'm the only person. I'm the only person that's allowed to enjoy this series. Everybody knows. That.
I don't think that.
Twitter
I'm sure
would like to say otherwise,
Right.
buddy.
I was gonna say there's people who like it.
There are people
You're
who
not
will
wrong
cancel
to
you
like
if you don't like it.
I think like it's the what ifs or the what is. Like I like the potential.
Yeah.
Sadly, they never deliver. Like look at the tease of the 6v6.
Oh, and I gotta ask a question just because maybe my memory's fuzzy. Did they clarify when Karina and B became friends, or is this just something that's word of mouth?
It was now. Like
It was a misinterpretation because it was explained. It was explained why. Because like I said, because of how B's attitude is in battles, she was not sympathetic to her, so that's why there's the whole Amai the Amai kind of like.
Right, but I got
like,
that
kind of
part.
line.
I'm
So,
saying
yeah.
when did they decide to hang out and become friends and eat chocolate and shit together? Or was that something that the episode decided to bring up now because now we can do it?
No, I think it was the thing is though they established it now because it was kind of like the misunderstanding. So that's how they were able to patch that up.
And it was the only time they could do it because when in this show will Karina and B be in the same place at the same time again?
Yeah,
So-
it sometimes feel like when B shows up on screen, the show just sort of puts her in a spot that they need to put her in. And I'm about to pull a Koro real fast and overthink because obviously the show is not doing it. So look at They Dinesh Chocolate. I love how it makes a 3.
Yeah.
That's just me bullshitting. That's got nothing to do with anything. I just wanted to point
Also,
it out.
I thought the same. I thought the same. I saw that the Danny cake and I thought of you. Like,
Yeah.
Of course,
also
it's got the fucking tree on it.
Also, folks, I forgot to mention. So in the original broadcast, we have once again the version 2 of the dance version of Super Effective Type, and they still did not fix the fucking Pikachu frame error. Just saying that they still did not fucking fix it.
That's
yet.
not noticeable in the web release, right? But it is
Correct.
in the
Yes.
TV release. Oh Jesus!
Yes.
Maybe it was
Also-
already
They
so
don't give a
forward.
shit.
Also, Tyrone, all of those fairy cakes from Laver City, the middle one was, Valerie's badge. And who defeated Valerie? Halucha.
Yep.
So
Also,
yeah.
that's the
They
Dene
say
cameo. So there you go,
Yeah.
champ. You got your
Yeah.
Dene cameo. So,
Dene is
what was
great
your
a lot.
score again, just to make sure, Crow?
It was an 8.
All right, so same as my
It was an
approach
8.
then. So you got a 6, an 8, an 8, and a 9.2 from TSS. So
Yeah.
overall, chat, that's pretty much our take on the episode as a whole. Now, of course, next week's episode is coming. There's really not much to elaborate on it because it's part 2.